Of course this stuff haunted him. Just like some of us, when we experience traumatic events very early on in our lives, it haunts us, right? Even if we get out of the unhealthy, toxic environment, we still find ourselves having thoughts about things that have happened to us in our past that are, in fact, traumatic. And to top all of that off, when Moses is about 80 years old, God sends him on this mission to do this great thing. And I'm sure that Moses is like, really, Lord? What's up, geeks? It's your guy Q here, aka JGTV, and we are back with another one, guys. And today we are starting off in a brand new sermon series dealing with trauma. Now, in my previous sermon series, God Over Culture, in that segment I attacked a lot of different topics, talking about what does culture have to say about it versus what God has to say. And in that segment I did talk about therapy, trauma, and mental illness. Right here we're going to branch off into the trauma part of things, and I'm just going to pick certain people out of the Bible who are really great people. We know of them, we know of some great things they've done, and they've had some traumatic experiences in their past. Now, most of us don't know just how traumatic they were, so some of them we're going to go through, and each time I make a video I'm going to pick a different person, and we're going to attack and talk about some of the trauma that they went through, and despite all that, how God used them anyway. A lot of us, when we experience traumatic things in our life, we tend to think that after that God can't use us, like we're too broken, or we're no good, or we're just not good enough, we're unworthy. And a lot of the people in the Bible felt that way. We just don't really know about it. So that's the reason why I want to go about this. We're going to also branch off into the therapy part of things and the mental illness, but I really wanted to start with trauma, because trauma is something that is very unaddressed in this culture. It's something that we go through and we think we could just keep it moving, keep it pushing, and we never have to deal with the traumatic events in our life that in fact affect us as time does pass. So if you guys take a look at JG Shorts, which is a playlist I have on the channel, I did a short where it's entitled Moses Goes to Therapy. Now, the reason why I did this short is because if you listen to that short, you will hear where Moses is going over some of the traumatic events that happened in his life, and he's explaining them to the therapist, and at the end you kind of just see the therapist a little bit perturbed, like, is this guy really telling me all of this? I want to talk about Moses a little bit today because I want to go into some of the things that happened more in the background that we don't see up front, but these were also some traumatic events. Every single time I do a short on someone or I do a video on someone dealing with trauma, you'll shortly see the video follow the short or the short follow the video, vice versa. So as far as Moses go, one thing I want to point out with Moses is that Moses was born into a family and a race of people who experienced historical trauma. Historical trauma was very apparent in Moses' race and in his culture. Now, what is historical trauma, right? Check this definition out. It is a multi-generational trauma experienced by a specific cultural, race, or ethnic group. It is related to major events that oppressed a particular group of people because of their status as oppressed, such as slavery, the Holocaust, forced migration, and the violent colonization of Native Americans. So that is what historical trauma is. We know that Moses experiences this because he is born into a group of people who are in fact enslaved. At the time when Moses is born, he's born under a decree where every single baby boy that is born is to be thrown into the river, is to be basically killed. So this is a pretty traumatic start for Moses before he even has a real grasp on life, right? We already see his life in danger before he can even speak his first words. As the story progresses, we see many things that Moses has to deal with. We see the being given away at birth. We see being raised by a different family and a different race, being subject to watching his people be enslaved on a daily basis, which is very traumatic. Then trying to help someone, ending up killing someone and having to flee from the home, the only home he's known, for 40 years. And now he's in the wilderness by himself. As time goes on, he does get married and he does have children, and all of these things are good things, but I'm sure that that stuff in the past was haunting him. There's no way that Moses could just flee somewhere for 40 years and just never think about the fact that he was raised by a different family and he killed a man and he had to flee for 40 years and he was raised under Pharaoh and he saw his people be enslaved, and it's been hundreds of years that they've been in this type of, under this type of oppression, right? Of course this stuff haunted him. Just like some of us, when we experience traumatic events very early on in our lives, it haunts us, right? Even if we get out of the unhealthy, toxic environment, we still find ourselves having thoughts about things that have happened to us in our past that are, in fact, traumatic. And to top all of that off, when Moses is about 80 years old, God sends him on this mission to do this great thing. And I'm sure that Moses is like, really, Lord, at 80? Like, we couldn't do this 25 years ago. We couldn't do this 45 years ago, right? But God's timing is perfect. And I love the story of Moses because it's such a great story of redemption. Moses is one of the greatest people that we hear about today. And I'm sure that with all of the trauma in his life and all of the trauma in his background, he didn't even think how great he would be. He probably couldn't even fathom the things that God would use him to do. And all the way this far into history, well over 3,000 years later, we're still talking about a dude named Moses, right? Who had so many excuses to give God to not use him because he was nervous about if he could even speak well. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys get something from this. You guys stay tuned because we're going to be coming back to back with the videos. I want you guys to just pay attention to how some of the people in the Bible are in fact being used despite all of the trauma in their background, despite some horrible traumatic events that occur in their life. God still uses them. He redeems them, and they go on to be great people. We hear about them later on in time, in history, and throughout, all the way up until now. So you guys stay tuned. This is going to be extremely encouraging. I'm super excited to preach about this. You guys share this video with someone, and what do I always say? Take care of yourselves, love one another, but most of all, love God. Peace.